Hey, here we go. So, thanks everybody for tuning in for the President's Seminar. I hope all of you are looking forward to an upcoming successful year. I know it will be busy, a lot of extra responsibility, but I hope it works out well for you and that you have a real good experience in your year as club president. Tonight, what we're going to try to do is go through a number of things, and I'll try to keep it moving pretty quickly. And I will do pauses between sections for questions if you have them. But if there's something you want to ask right in the middle or whatever, that's fine. Just go ahead and unmute yourself or make sure you're unmuted and ask the question. I'm happy to answer it as we go along. But the things that we're going to go over, we're going to talk a little bit just about leadership in general, and a couple of tips there about what it means to be a leader. We'll be discussing specifically the duties of both the club president as well as the vice president and the board of directors, because those are people that you are going to be working closely with. I want to give you some tips on how to plan for your year, some things that you could do that hopefully will make your year go a little bit more smoothly. And also the expectations that of a club president, general leadership expectations of the club president. And finally, just a couple places you can go for some either follow-up resources or information or training if you are interested in any of those things. So let's start by talking about just a little bit about leadership in general. Some things that I think we could all agree that leadership includes are providing guidance, motivation of your members to get out and do the things that your club needs to do. Problem solving can be a big part of it. Things come up that you have to take care of, and as well as building a consensus so that everybody is kind of headed in the same direction and agrees on the direction that the club is taking. One of the ways club presidents lead by communicating a shared vision among the club members. So, our clubs are mostly very well established, and we somewhat know what's coming up for the year because you have projects that you've done for years, fundraisers that you've done for years, those kinds of things. But sometimes it's good to take a step back and see, well, what is our role in our community? Do we share a common goal and a common vision of where our club is or where our club needs to go? So the better you can communicate that or come up with that as a group, and also for you personally to have sort of a vision of how you want your year to go and communicate that to your members is a great thing. You want to encourage your members toward reaching club and personal goals. So hopefully your club will have some goals that they want to achieve this year, and different members within your club will have personal goals. Like maybe they want to chair a particular committee, or maybe if they're already head of a fundraising project, they have a certain goal as to how much they want to raise this year with the fundraiser. Setting goals, even if they're not achieved, it helps give some direction, and it gives some motivation too to try to get out there and do the best job that you can. Always be looking for ways to provide leadership opportunities for other members in your club, because our clubs always need to keep developing leadership. I think that's one of the things that is holding back a lot of clubs is the lack of leadership or people who are willing to take up and take those leadership opportunities. So find small ways for people to help lead and give them opportunities to lead, even in a small way. If it's a part of a meeting or doing a presentation in a meeting on something that they know about. Attending and encouraging others to attend leadership training. Like this training, the district does provide some, and some of the resources at the end refer to different training opportunities that are available. So all of your club offices, whether it's your secretary, treasurer, directors, there's opportunities out there for them to learn and grow their information with Lions knowledge, but also just general leadership skills. There's plenty of material out there available through Lions International. You also lead by mentoring people, showing them. And a great way for that is like through your committee work, making sure that you're training the next person who's going to be leading that effort, whether it's a service project or a fundraising project, making sure that they know, whether maybe it's your vice president or one of your vice presidents, but mentoring them, getting them involved and showing them what it takes to run your club. It's really important that every member feel like they are contributing to the club and they have some kind of important role to fill. So to the best of your ability, and we'll talk a little bit about committees later, make sure that you have people assigned to things that they can do. Even your older members who may have mobility issues, isn't there some way that they can contribute? That's going to keep them involved and engaged and wanting to be a part of your club. And of course, as a leader, you always want to lead by example. Set that a good example for for that. And I see we have another one coming in here if I can get to it. Okay, I'm going to have to just back out of here a second to be able to do this. And we're back. All right. In terms of promoting consensus rather than conflict within your club, which I think is really important, bringing people together around a common cause. My dad, early on in my career, I was a public school administrator, well, a teacher and then administrator, but early on, especially when I moved into the administration role, my dad shared a little guide that he uses for running groups. He was a president of a number of different boards at church and through his work, and he had sort of an easy four-point rule for building consensus. And first is to have open, honest, candid, and confidential discussions. So, I'm giving these to you in case maybe you can use them, either whether it be with your sitting down early with your board of directors and setting these ground rules, or maybe even with your whole club as you go through your year. But yeah, you want to make sure that what you're saying, you want to set an environment where there's an environment of trust, so that anything confidential that's discussed, people can be honest and candid and know that their thoughts won't go outside of the room. Another is to encourage people to own their own views. So they shouldn't be afraid to have an opinion and be able to explain that opinion to others. We should be able to challenge other members' opinions without being offensive to those people. So we can disagree with each other, but we don't have to be disagreeable. Listening to the radio today, there was something I heard somebody say something along the lines of, even if you have the strongest of disagreements, don't let your disagreements with others turn into hate or dislike of those people. That's going to be counterproductive. And then finally, kind of a sister to the one before it, you need to be able to accept challenges without being offended. So, you want to be polite when you're challenging somebody. You don't want to be offensive to them. And at the same time, if somebody's challenging you for something, you say, you need to be open to that. That promotes, the best open discussions, the best airing of views, and hopefully leads to the whole group to a better consensus. All right, so that's just a few tips, little things that I've used along my journey. I was president of the club for the third time this year. I'm just finishing my year, and I try to do that to the best of my ability. So let's move on now to the actual duties of the president, and this will just be a real quick overview, and we'll talk a little bit about some specifics later. But you are the chief executive officer of your club. So that means that you are responsible to call and preside of the meetings, the club meetings, board of directors, any special meetings. You're making sure the committees are staffed with chairperson and members. Ensure that you have regular elections, or that your elections happen at the proper way, time and place, and in the proper method. We encourage you to attend cabinet and zone meetings uh, at the district level and the zone level so that you can receive information about the larger Lions organization, what's going on, and take that information back to your club. Um, and then when you go to the zone meetings, be prepared to report either concerns of your club or activities of your club, whatever your zone chair has on the agenda for a given meeting. You get your authority as the executive officer. It comes from a number of places, but it's not absolute authority. All right. Um, you've been given that authority by your club through their vote to make you president. And then that authority and the specific responsibilities are outlined in your constitution and bylaws, as well as your club's constitution and bylaws, as well as the international constitution and bylaws, and your club board of directors. They also support you by giving you authority to take various actions. So that's just brief with the president. The vice president, whether first, second, or third, also have some specific duties, primarily learning how to be president and preparing for their year as president. So ideally, if your vice presidents will have served as a committee chair or a board member prior to being elected as vice president, which will help them with a number of the duties that they're responsible for. I know that some of our clubs, again, with the membership or whatever, sometimes they bring people along who have not been members for very long, so they may or may not have had some of these experiences. But hopefully you've had some of these, if not with your Lions Club, maybe with another organization. So first and foremost, you want them to understand the duties and the role, understand the president's role and duties. You can assign your vice presidents to oversee the work of various committees and also help committee chairs set goals for what they're going to achieve this year. One of the things that's kind of helpful is to develop job descriptions for your committees. It doesn't have to be anything real long. Our club has a policy that has all of our committees listed on it, and just a brief description of what that committee is responsible to do. And then that helps the committee have a little bit clear vision of what they're supposed to do. But then we want to help the committee chairs also learn meeting management. So that's part of that learning experience, how to run a meeting. You know, many of us have had that outside of Lions, but we have members who have not been a part of that kind of a thing. So learning how to do that, your vice presidents can help, and that's part of that mentoring role. Your vice presidents can also act as a resource for the committee chairs to go to, so the chairs can become more familiar with the ins and outs of whatever position they are doing. The vice president can also be an ex officio member of an assigned committee. So they might not have a vote there, but they're there as a resource and a reference. And they could report on behalf of committees. You might have them ask them to do that. So those are just a few things as far as the vice president's role. So the officers and the board of directors really make up the club's management team. And when we talk about the officers, and as I go through this, I'm going to be referring to officers and the board of directors the way they're laid out in the club constitution and bylaws. Your club may have its own constitution and bylaws. you don't have to use the standard constitution and bylaws that the Lions International has, but if your club has its own version of the constitution and bylaws, it probably started with the standard one, and then it was enhanced, so to speak. But you have to make sure that it stays updated and it's not in conflict with what's in the Lions International bylaws, constitution and bylaws. So here are the officers, what are considered the officers of your club under the standard constitution bylaws. Your president, your immediate past president, the vice president or presidents, a secretary, a treasurer, and that position can be combined. You can have a secretary treasurer, a service chairperson, a marketing chairperson, and a membership chairperson. And as you can see in the note below, either of those last three roles could be filled by maybe an officer or a director, because we all know not all of our clubs, if they were to fill these officer positions plus the director positions that I'm going to show you, your club might not have that many members in it. So doing double duty may be a necessity in your club, but we do want to try to have these roles covered to the best of our ability, or somebody responsible for covering those duties. The board of directors then includes the club officers as well as these other positions. Lion tamer and tail twister are two traditional positions within Lions. They are not required, however, they are optional. Your lion tamer is the person who's kind of responsible for the club's property and equipment. The tail twister is there to try to keep meetings light and lively and bring some entertainment and fun to the club meetings. Your club should have an LCIF coordinator, somebody who promotes our Lions Club International Foundation. If you don't appoint somebody else, that position defaults to the immediate past president, and that's who LCI will communicate with and send information to as far as LCIF is concerned. Ideally, your club should have a program coordinator, somebody who's responsible for setting up, speakers and that kind of thing for your different club meetings. A safety officer is optional, highly recommended though, especially for organizations who, are engaged in activities where you should look at safety concerns. In my case, our club runs a restaurant at the South Mountain Fairgrounds, so it's important for us to have somebody who's on the lookout to see potential safety hazards. Some others of you do similar things, have pavilions, or you have other facilities or something like that. You want to make sure that things are somebody's looking out for those safety aspects. The next two only apply if your club has a club branch, which we have 3 of them, I believe, in the district right now. A club branch is simply a sort of an offshoot of a club, a group of 5 or more members who kind of meet separately from the other club, and often with the goal of trying to grow into an independent club. But if you have a club branch, then the president, if designated, should be part of the board of directors. Same way with the Leo Club. We have 4 active Leo clubs in the official Leo clubs in the district, and 2 others that are working to get to official status as soon as they can get enough members. The club member who's there, the advisor for the Leo Club should be, you might want to have on your board of directors so that they can keep contact and knowledgeable of what's going on. And then, of course, your directors themselves. Most clubs have 2, maybe 4 directors, and those people can be assigned to other responsibilities, as I mentioned before. These positions should all be elected offices of your club. However, whichever ones you decide to have or are part of the culture of your club, you want to include those offices on the ballot for that, for your when your elections occur. The board of directors reviews and refers all new business appropriately. So they're going to be shaping policy, whatever. But typically, if somebody has an idea that comes to the club, in most part, that should go to your board. That should be referred to a committee or the board of directors for review before it's necessarily taken on formally as a new, say, service project or a fundraiser or something like that. There should be a review of that by the board of directors. Of course, they approve expenditures and arrange for some sort of audit or way to keep somebody looking after the books other than your treasurer. And yes, we trust our treasurers, but it's always good to have accountability there. They, on an annual basis, you should be approving your financial institution and providing bonding for your club treasurer. Maintaining 2 separate accounts, and this is primarily a responsibility of your treasurer, but if I hope you're all aware at this point, but maybe not, that Lions keep their administrative money separate from their public money or their activity money, project money. Administrative money should be used for, or is used to run the club. The activity money, that any money that comes in to your club from the public that you have through sales or any other way, if it's not Lions money, it needs to be, if it's not money that's provided by a Lions Club member, then it goes into the activity account and is to be used back in that way to go back to the public or support your service projects and those kinds of things. As a board of directors, they can also modify or overrule or rescind any officer's actions. So there again, that you as president, you are not the king or the dictator or whatever. If you make a decision that they don't like, they may overrule that and do that. So that's why you will have to have a good working relationship with your board. And then the board of directors should support all the decisions made, or everybody on the board should support the decisions that finally come out. And that's where building consensus is really important. So that's kind of the first phase of the presentation. Any questions or comments related to leadership, duties, or the board of directors?
Nope.
I have a question about your administrative account and the activities account.
Okay.
The activities account, can that be used to update your building in order to allow the public to come in and rent it, or to have your parties there for the public?
Yes. Yes, you can use that because that's part of the, you need that building to do those service activities, that kind of thing. So yeah, any funds that you raise, like when you have the building being rented for something, it's not inappropriate to set aside some of that money for repairs and maintenance of the building, and that would all be like line items in your project account.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on. Now, I'd like to share with you a few things about some tips as far as for planning for your year. And I always try to think about this as, for me, being a leader is about being 5 steps ahead of the group, trying to anticipate what's coming up, making sure things are ready to go, and you're not stuck at the last minute trying to figure things out. So one of the things that will help you through your year is to become familiar with your club's constitution and bylaws. And as I said, some of you might have your own specific constitution and bylaws, but I believe most clubs function under the standard club constitution and bylaws that's provided by Lions Club International. At the end of the webinar, I'm going to send each of you a copy of the current one, even though the one on the screen says 2020, 2021. I will send you the one for this year, just for 24, 25. But every year at the International Convention, these are updated, or just after the International Convention, to reflect any actions taken by the International Board of Directors. So probably in July, maybe August, the updated version will come out, and I will try to make sure that you get that one as well. But I'm going to send you the current one so you have a copy of that you can look at. So it really helps to be familiar with this, because this is the basic information by which your club should be running and doing its best to be using those guidelines and following those guidelines. Another helpful resource is the club president and first vice president ebook. This has a ton of information in it, and one of the things, it's an electronic document. What's nice is that there are links for every section, or every topic that comes up in there. They provide multiple links as to where you can access or get forms and get more information about the topic and what's referenced. So I'm also going to send that to you. That was recently updated, I believe, just last spring. So that's pretty up to date. It's a good resource for you to take a look at, so that you can see there, and then just kind of put that in the back of your mind and know that if you have a situation comes up and you're not quite sure what the protocols are with that, you can look for it, and you'll probably find it in the ebook. I certainly encourage everybody to start early with their planning. Hopefully you're doing some planning already for your year, as you were all elected, hopefully last month sometime. Depending on what you're doing, you do want to get permission from the club president to begin organizing. So making contacts with different members who you might want to chair projects or take on certain responsibilities. Just don't step on any toes for the current president until his or her year is finished. Be good to schedule a meeting with your incoming officer team now that you know who they are. And this is where maybe you can do some goal setting with them, and just sort of set the table with what's going on. Try to get your committee chairs appointed and assign your club members to committees. Last year, I handed out a survey to the membership, and I asked them to sign up for committees they were interested in, and then I used that to refine my selection of committee members and chairs. May be helpful for you to talk with your predecessor and/or a past president that you respect, just to get their input, especially if you have ideas for maybe some new initiatives that you are interested in. And also just to use them and establish relationships, so you have somebody to talk with about that. Another thing that I found helpful for me this year was to create a binder that I took to every meeting, and I included lots of things in here. I had my agenda, of course, for the meeting. I had the minutes from the previous meeting, so I could always look back. Any financial reports that the treasurer gave me or handed out, I tried to keep a copy of that, as well as other information like your club's budget for the year and budget updates. A membership roster you can get from your club secretary, or you can actually print it out yourself from the Lion portal, which I'll mention in a little bit as well. Officer and committee lists, so you have that as a reference in there. I put a calendar of my meeting dates in mine. I always carried a copy of the club constitution and bylaws that I just showed you. I printed out a small version, like 2-page, I forget if it was 2 or 4 pages per side, so that it didn't take up so much space and somebody used so much paper. But I always had that with me as a reference, as well as any of your club policies. If you're using the standard club constitution and bylaws, your club may have some specific policies that elaborate on things that aren't really addressed in the constitution and bylaws, or that need refinement. So our club has a handful of policies that that specify what offices we have, and who's assigned to them, how our directors are used, what our committees are, what our projects are, our fundraising projects, and what our meeting dates are, how our meetings, we're in the process of approving one actually on that with when we meet, and what special meetings we have, that type of thing. So check, hopefully, if your club has those, they have them in writing. If they don't have them in writing, if you just kind of have some traditions that you do, it's not a bad idea to have it in a written form, and maybe that's a goal that you would like to pursue. Robert's Rules of Order are referenced in the club constitution and bylaws. If you can find a copy of that or a basic cheat sheet for Robert's Rules of Order, that might be something that's helpful to you, so you know the ins and outs of how motions are to be presented and when they can be, and tabling the motions, that kind of thing. As club president, you also get a copy of the district directory. Those will be handed out at the first district cabinet meeting, which is in August. I believe it's August 9th, but I can't say that for sure. But that'll be announced in the district newsletter. Probably the July district newsletter will have the dates of the cabinet meetings that are coming up. So take a look for that. Just as an aside, you should all be getting the district newsletter once a month. If you're not, shoot me an email, and let me know. It might be that you accidentally blocked the correspondence that comes from our MailChimp mail service, but I can get you established with that if you want. Another thing I think is good to work on is to come up with a tentative calendar of events. Right now at this time of the year, start thinking through, because many of the things that our clubs do are done year after year, and we follow the same schedule. We do a lot of the same things. So put together that calendar of events with when your meeting dates are, when your projects are going to be, the fundraisers, that kind of thing. And then use that to create sort of a month by month to-do list. So what do I need to do as club president to be ready for these things? So I know on mine this year, I knew that we what do I want to say? Give a good example. Something that we do, well, like an approvals, let's say for a donation to an organization. If you know that you're going to have a speaker in for an organization in October, you might want to put in your month by month to-do list to at a September board meeting approve a donation to that organization, so that they, you don't have to wait until after. You can hand them the check at that meeting, that kind of thing. When do you have to get sign-up lists for your service projects or a fundraiser? In your month by month to-do list, that might need to start a couple months before the actual time that things do. So if your club doesn't have anything like that going on, for you to start the first one, I think it would be a great idea, and because it's something you can pass on to the next president. For them, it'll be a lot, make their year a lot easier to get started, and use that as a guideline. You might want to create a template for your meeting agendas, and that way you can just copy and paste and make modifications that make it specific to each meeting, but having the general format laid out. My process was to use I did them all on the computer, and I would just copy the last meeting's agenda and paste it into a new doc, or duplicate it and then use the new one. But I always had the old one, but just use that template over and over again. That way you kind of remember some things. And we'll talk a little bit more about your meeting agendas later. As I mentioned, you might I would encourage you to set some goals and develop action plans to achieve those goals. And one thing that you could use to help you consider what some of your goals might be, is to look at the criteria for the Lions International Club Excellence Award. This is another document that I'm going to send to you after our meeting this evening. The criteria for the Club Excellence Award changes from year to year. So I'm going to be sending you the 24-25 Club Excellence Award criteria. The criteria for next year's award probably won't come out until after July 1st. Excuse me. That's going to be the cold catching up with me now. All right, I think I skipped a slide there. Let's go back. Did you have any questions on planning? All right, then we'll move on. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, hear me hacking and coughing. I'm so sorry. So let's see if we can get through this. So leadership expectations. So what is these are going to be expectations of the club president related to things like conducting meetings. Oh, I got somebody trying to come in here. We just got Rick Lyon coming in to the meetings. All right, so again, conducting meetings, expectation of conducting meetings, managing your committees, conducting the officer elections, and communicating with within and outside of your club. So let's start with some of the expectations related to meetings. You are responsible to see that all the club meetings, board meetings, special meetings are announced, date, time, and place, as well as preparing an agenda for those meetings and presiding over your club, your board meetings, and your special meetings. I also highly recommend that you review the minutes of previous meetings prior to their distribution to the general public. And that's something you want to work with your secretary on, hopefully to avoid any mistakes or miscommunications there. I do want to emphasize that you're responsible to see that these things are done. You don't always have to be the one who does them, but you can delegate them, but these things should be done. Some of that depends on the culture of your club. I know a number of clubs where the secretary does a lot of has taken on the role of preparing the agenda for the meetings, but I would encourage you to have a very active role in that, and actually be the leader, the person who does that, not just the president in name only. Why is an agenda point important? Well, for me, it acts like a blueprint for an efficient meeting. I think the meetings are more productive and orderly when you have that agenda to keep yourself on track. It helps to inform your members, especially when you're sending it out early. They know what business is going to be covered at the meeting, what's coming up. And it helps you not to overlook something that you wanted to do at the meeting that you might forget if you don't have it written down in an agenda. You do want to work with your secretary and vice presidents and committee chairs in putting the agenda together so that you know if they have information that needs to be communicated, if the secretary knows the things that are coming up. Your secretary is kind of your right-hand person, because in most clubs, the secretary has been in the office for several years. Um, and they have a good idea of that longer arc of the year. So even when you're doing if you do a month by month to-do list or something like that, sit down with your secretary to help work on that, because they're going to be very knowledgeable of things to expect to come up. Um, I always went back to the previous meeting agendas, or agendas from previous meetings, as well as the minutes, to make sure I didn't lose anything that we said we would bring back to the next meeting. I worked from two different ones. There was my first version of the agenda has a lot of notes on things that I want to remember, but they're not necessarily things that the whole membership has to see. So when you look at the agenda I have in front of me, it's in black and red, and the red stuff is stuff that's just for me. When I prepare the version that I send out to members or make copies of, I take that red stuff out, and it keeps it a little bit shorter, and it's kind of like a need to know type of thing. Most of them are a lot of those notes that are just reminders for me. The regular membership or general membership doesn't need to know. So as I said, send a basic version to your club members. And you might want to, we send ours out usually, we have meetings on Tuesdays, so we try to have the agenda out to the members by Thursday of the week before, so that they get a couple days advance notice reminder of the meeting, and also can look at the agenda and the minutes from the previous meeting. But you still might want to have a couple copies available for people who want something to jot on, or people who didn't take time to look at it before. Here's just some possibility from my experience. If you're going to have a program at your meeting, you want to do your typical call to order and opening exercises, introduction of any of your guests, if you have prospective members or things like that. If you have a meal, go ahead with that, and then have the program right after the meal. You may or may not want to do your secretary and treasurer reports as part of that meeting for approval. In our club, we usually just have the secretary and treasurer reports approved at board meetings, not necessarily at the regular membership, at the basic meeting like this. And some announcements. If you have a tail twister, you want to leave time for the tail twister. We usually do the tail twister at ours. We have been doing it right after the meal. The tail twister takes a few minutes to do their thing. And then after your adjournment, you can reconvene a board meeting if you need a board meeting, and go through the agenda items for your board meeting. Now, if you're a regular meeting night and it's not a program meeting, but just a regular business board meeting, then your agenda might look something like this, where you have a call to order, your opening exercises, and meal. If this is a board meeting after after your regular meeting, of course, you're not going to do those things, but then you can pick up with your secretary and treasurer reports, your chair people and coordinator, maybe reporting on upcoming activities, section for old or unfinished business that needs to be taken care of or looked at, opportunity for new business to come before the club. And in that case, if it's new business, an idea comes up or whatever, you probably want to refer it then to a committee for review and then brought back. Any announcements you have, and then you can do the adjournment for that meeting. Did somebody have a question? Okay, I'll move on. This was my agenda for the meeting we had last night. Pretty straightforward. This is the one that went out to the members for the meeting. Just has a few notes. Under the announcements, I usually try to list those, because then that's a nice reference for the members to have, that they can mark their calendars as things come up. And you can see in this case program, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, which it's a pretty cool project if you have your group, if you have a group in your community that's doing that. I found it very interesting, a way to provide books to kids who are 0 to 5 years old. They get a book a month for the time that they're signed up if they're involved with the program. And then we had a brief board of directors meeting after our adjournment of our regular club meeting. And again, many of your clubs have their own traditions, and in the smaller clubs, maybe it's not so necessary with that. The larger your clubs get, the more you want to really keep that board of directors meeting separate from just a regular club meeting where you have a program going on. Because a lot of your members don't want to sit through the minutia of a board meeting. Hopefully your club is functioning well with committees and things like that. So, and especially if you have guests at your meeting too, you don't want them to have to sit through things as you hash out the details of your projects. Any questions or comments on meetings? Okay, then let's talk a little bit about committees. As I mentioned before, you're responsible to seeing that chair people to the committees and members of the committee membership are assigned. I would work with your vice presidents to involve them because so many things carry over from year to year. Ask your VPs to oversee and assist, mentor, but not to take over the committee, just to be there to support the chairperson. Try to match the members to their interests and skills. That's why I put out a sign-up sheet to see who was interested in serving on what committees. You want to keep trying to bring new blood into these committee appointments so that the new ideas and build a culture of being accepting of new ideas and new ways to do things. Doesn't have to be exactly the same ways it's been done the past 25 years or something like that. Maybe things that could be done to make it more effective. If you can develop job descriptions for responsibilities for those committees, that's even better to get that down. It makes transitioning to a new person or a new club chair or new committee chairperson much easier if they have some guidelines to go by. So that's same with the record keeping as to what goes on in the committees. Trying to keep those records. Anything you can get down to help the next person along is great. We have so much knowledge built up in just the people who are currently doing the position, but something happens and then nobody knows how to pick up the pieces if they can't do it for some reason. That's the risk you run, especially the more your club counts on that fundraiser or people count on that service project. So expect the committee chairs to report on what they're doing and make sure you provide time for them to do that reporting. Keep in communication with your committee chairs through your vice presidents or directly. Encourage the committees to meet between club meetings, not everything being hashed out at a club meeting or a board meeting. Your committees can make decisions and they should be bringing them to your board meeting. So it's just like a thumbs up or a thumbs down kind of thing once it gets to the board level. Do your best to attend those committee meetings if you can, so that you can stay in the loop and be aware of whatever progress they're making, problems, and their achievements. That helps keep the committee focused, but it may require a lot of follow-up on your part too, to make sure that the committees are functioning and getting the work done that needs to be done. There are certain committees that your club is supposed to have according to the Constitution and bylaws. Those are our Global Action Team, which most of our clubs, I'm pretty confident to bet, don't have a functioning Global Action Team. The Global Action Team concept came into being somewhere around 2016, 2017. And it's an effort by Lions International to have a team of people at every level who strategize around service, membership, and leadership. And those three things working together to advance the club. We use this structure at the district level pretty heavily, but we haven't been too successful in introducing it at the club level and getting global action teams set up at the club level. But it can be a very effective strategy for putting together action plans to move your club forward in those three areas. You should have a Constitution and Bylaws Committee, somebody who every year takes a look at the updated Constitution and bylaws to see if there are any changes that affect your club. And also that committee would be responsible for reviewing and sometimes drafting new club policies. You're supposed to have a finance committee, which is to be chaired by the club treasurer, a membership committee, a marketing and communications committee, an information technology committee, and a leadership committee, which is supposed to be chaired by the first vice president. And I think the first vice president, they recommend that be the chair because the first vice president then can be recruiting their leadership team for their year as president. Marketing, communications, and information technology, they could probably be worked together because they have a lot in common, and they should definitely be working close together if they're not a combined committee. So those are the ones in the club constitution and bylaws. Then your club has specific committees for things that your club does. So this is just for my club. I'm the Orangefield Lions Club, by the way. Yeah, we have service project committees. We do the peace poster contest, road cleanups. We deliver holiday fruit baskets. We decorate the town with wreaths, do vision screenings, Leo Club, 6th grade awards. And we have recently set up a charitable giving committee so that in our budget, we have a line item just for charitable giving. And after we have our major fundraisers completed, we assign a lump sum of money, and then that committee is responsible for making a recommendation as to how many or what nonprofit organizations that money should go to. You have your fundraising committees. In our case, we just have two main sources of raising funds. We have a restaurant at the South Mountain Fairgrounds, so that's our restaurant operations committee. And then we recently purchased a trailer and bought 2 milkshake machines, and now we go out to events and sell milkshakes. So we have a milkshake committee. And then we have some administrative committees, one that plans our charter night and another that plans our volunteer appreciation holiday dinner. From time to time, you may need a special committee to do a specific task or one-time responsibility, something like a zone social, or you might want to do a more formal kind of audit of your books. Maybe you want to do some kind of social outing, like a bus trip or concert or a picnic, or a special service project like this year. Our club prepared breakfast for every morning for 2 weeks straight for an organization in Gettysburg. We may take that on as an annual project, but for this year, it was just a special project, and we had a committee that worked through that. Your nominating and election committee is a sort of a one-time thing too. That's not specified in well, there are some guidelines actually specified in the Constitution and bylaws, but that's another thing that you'll want to, we'll be talking about in a minute here with the elections, but you'll need to assign a committee for that. All right, questions or comments on committees? Okay. So let's go on to officer elections. You are responsible to ensure that the elections that your club holds comply with the Constitution and bylaws. So you don't have to run it all, you don't have to do it all, but you need to know what the rules are and assign people to take care of these things. So I'm going to give you some of this information so you have a place to refer to it. But you'll also see this in the in the ebook, the president's ebook that I mentioned earlier. You want to make sure that the process is open and meets the deadlines. Check with your constitution and bylaws. So it starts with a nominating committee, and you probably ought to appoint that sometime in January is what I would recommend. At the but you could do it a little bit earlier if you want. You could do it at the beginning of the year if you want. I actually assigned that to the to our leadership committee chair this year to work on that. And they basically put together your ballot of candidates. They recruit the candidates and hopefully at least one for each of your elected offices. Then, once they have that in place, you will be ready for your nominating meeting, which should happen in March. So if you only meet once a month, then part of your March meeting, you can put this on your to-do list and your calendar of events. You're going to be doing your March. You're going to be doing having your nominating meeting. You should be providing notice of that meeting 14 days in advance to your memberships so that they know to be there when the people are nominated for the offices. They report on the slate of candidates they've recruited. They present that slate of candidates. There should be an opportunity then for additional nominations from the floor. And then the nominations can be closed, and the final slate of candidates made on a motion that's approved at this meeting. And that's with the general membership. That's not just a board of directors thing. That's something that involves the whole membership. Then you're ready for the election, which happens in April. Elections are supposed to be held in April according to the bylaws. And again, you want to have 14 days notice of that you're going to hold the elections. You should have all the names of the nominees that were approved at the March 8 nominating meeting. You cannot accept additional nominations at the election meeting unless there is, well, I shouldn't say it. You don't accept additional nominations. And you're supposed to do all the elections through a secret written ballot. If you don't have a nominee for a particular office, you can leave a space for a write-in. And then that person can be contacted to see if they would be interested in serving. But you cannot, you don't go through another nominating process. All that stuff is detailed in the Constitution and bylaws, so you can check there for additional details. They even include like a sample ballot. Questions or comments there? I hope you can remember that until 8 months from now. All right, then let's talk about communication. Got so many ways that we can communicate now. You know, a lot of your clubs do have a newsletter and somebody who puts that together for you, whether a paper version or electronic. Social media, our club uses Facebook and Instagram pretty successfully. We do almost all of our communicating through email. We only have one member who doesn't have email, so that when we do have to print things out and mail or drop off. Telephone calls and text messages work real well still. Might be old school, but we do a lot of that. And then, of course, making announcements at meetings. For the broader public, press releases can be useful depending on how well your local newspapers receive those types of things. Don't think that you have to do that all yourself, of course. Involve your other officers and your committee chairs to help keep your members informed. The kinds of things you want to communicate to your club members are, of course, your club activities. And your club activities are reported to LCI under 4 different broad categories: service projects, meetings, fundraisers, and donations. So make sure your club members know about every activity that's going on with the club. They should also, of course, know about your meetings and the minutes. You want to communicate those things. Keep them informed of zone and district activities and encourage them to attend those things. You may have a zone social, your zone advisory meetings. When you're mentoring somebody to take on the role, like your first vice president, take them to at least one of the zone meetings so they have a better concept of what the zone meetings are all about. Try to get them to go to the district convention, so that they get to experience that, or a district cabinet meeting. Those are all good things for your prospective leaders to go to, as well as multiple district activities, which include things like symposiums. There's a fall and a spring symposium. We're pretty fortunate. The multiple district PA Lions sponsor those. And they're in Harrisburg. For most of us, that's not much more than an hour's drive or so to get to the state office where those are conducted. Also, there's something in March, near the beginning of March, called Regional Lions Leadership Institute, RLLI. It's a great opportunity that all it costs you is the gas money to get there. They put you up overnight. 2 nights. PDG Keith, am I right? 2 nights on that? I think you go over Friday evening and you get your meals, you get 2 evenings lodging, get to meet a lot of great lions from across the state and get lots of great information. And then, of course, there are council meetings 4 times a year, as well as the state convention. Just in general, keep your members aware of Lions Club International activities and Lions Club International Foundation activities. Outside of your club, delegate that communication responsibility as appropriate. Make sure it's clear who will respond to what kinds of things. Is the secretary supposed to do that? The committee chair, vice president, president? Who's going to do the communication in different types of circumstances? All right. Or as you receive correspondence, who's going to reply to those kinds of things? Who's going to send thank you notes? Who's going to send sympathy cards? Who's going to send replies to people who request donations? Try to insist that you're informed of all the requests for insistence so that you can follow up with the person assigned and respond to each request. Last thing we want is for requests to just fade off and not the person who made the request not to hear back from us. Your marketing and communications committee can help, of course, with the communication. Strong chairperson, as I say here, is a great asset. And they need to be really comfortable with social media tools at this point, and make regular posts on either Facebook or Instagram. It's a great way to keep your community informed. If your paper will accept them, do press releases and pictures. They don't have to be anything real fancy. We're lucky in the Gettysburg Times. We get about, I'd say maybe at least 50% of the things we submit gets published at some point or another. Check your club website, see what needs to be updated, and find the right person who is responsible and can make those updates to your website. An out-of-date website is not a good look when people go to check you out. Check out your club's activities or your information. And best thing you can do for member recruitment is to keep your community aware of what your club is doing. Keep that out in front of them and keep trying to develop new people to follow you on social media. So again, we're looking at service projects, meetings, fundraisers, and donations. Any questions or comments on communication? All right, we're coming down to it. Last section, just real quickly, some places to go for resources. As I've mentioned, I'm going to send you a number of documents to help you look at more. Another place you can go is to the Lions Resource Center, and that is at the lionsclub.org website. There's a nice red box there. It says member resources for members, and you just basically have to click through, and you can find you can get down to where you the information that you want just by kind of following the links that are there. It's not overly hard to navigate, but it'll there's a wealth of information available on the Lions Club website. You can also just do general Google searches and include word Lions Club, and a lot of times the links will come up to that. The only thing I'd caution you there is just make sure when you look at the information that's provided that it is up-to-date information. You can also go to get to the Lions Learning Center, or I'm sorry, that's the resource center. Yes, the Lions Learning Center is another resource that you can use, and this has a number of online courses, which take maybe anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to complete. They're self-paced kinds of things. You can access the Learning Center through the Lion portal. All you have to do is sign in to your account on the Lion portal. If you don't have an account on the Lion portal account set up yet, I highly recommend that you do that. I'm going to take a chance here and see if this works, but I have this linked. Let's see what happens. See if it'll go. There it is. This is the login for the Lion portal. If you're not already registered, all you have to do is you have to just click here on don't have an account, and you can go through and provide your email address and a password. You do have to use the email address that's on the that's registered through that your secretary has on file in for you with the club, or it won't connect, it won't recognize you. All right, so when you log in, one of the main things up here is learn. You click on that, and that takes you right to the pop-ups. Okay. All right. So I've got an issue there with the pop-ups. Sorry about that. But that'll take you to the link, and then you can access the courses that are there. Okay. Yeah, I just have to figure out how to get back to my presentation. Well, here's one way we can do it. Well, I knew I was taking a chance when I backed out of that. There we are. All right. Then another place another place you can go to is the Lions University, which is sponsored by USA Canada Lions Leadership Forum. If you've never been to a Lions Leadership Forum, it's probably, well, I'd say it's the best thing that I've gone to that Lions is that it's Lions related and basically Lions sponsored. It's its own entity, but it's training specifically on leadership skills and aspects related to leadership and moving the organization forward. This year it is in Atlantic City, New Jersey, so it's really close by, a lot closer than Reno, where I went, or Grand Rapids, Michigan, or a couple of the others. But so this one's really close, and it's always in at the beginning or middle of October. I'm sorry, beginning or middle of September. So if you can go to that, great. But if you want to get a feel for the information, you can just go to Lions University, set up an account, and they have what they call a bachelor's program, which has a set of required courses and electives that you take. Again, these are self-paced online training. So you get to choose that. If you complete the requirements for a bachelor's, you can go to a forum and have the international president shake your hand and hand you your degree. You can then move on and get a master's degree, and then you can get a doctorate in Lions University if you want. So that was always an ambition of yours, to earn a master's degree or a doctorate. It's not like a university doctor, a regular university doctorate, a master's degree, but that's what we call it. So it's a great way to get to really know a lot more about the Lions organization. Any questions or comments about those resources? All right. Well, that is what I have for you. I hope you found that or find that to be somewhat helpful as you get ready for your new year. Anybody else have any comments or questions that they'd like to ask before we end the meeting?
Yeah, Denny, you said this was going to be posted somewhere, and where would we look for that? Because you had a lot of really good slides that are really well organized, and I would like to find them again. Everything's in one spot, so where would that be?
Sure. That will be what I will do when I get the recording back. I have to send it for one of our district members to post on the post to YouTube, and then he sends me a link. So I will send that link directly to you folks
Oh, good,
as well.
good.
All right. But it will also be available. You'll be able to access that link on the district website. That's where we house everything. So if you go to the district website and look under the trainings tab, all of our most recent trainings are there as well. But I will send all of you the link when I have that. In fact, maybe I'll wait to send these handouts until I have that link, so I can send it to everybody at one time.
That'd be great. Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sure. I can also send the PowerPoint or probably a PDF of the PowerPoint that I used. I actually use the Mac version of PowerPoint, which is called Keynote. But I'll send it to you as a PDF.
That'll be helpful.
Great. I'd rather have the slides than have it on YouTube. I'd
Okay.
like to be able to look at it myself whenever I wanted to and just focus on individual pages.
Okay. That's no problem. I can easily do that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Well, then again, thanks for taking time to go through the training, and I really wish you all a lot of success in your year as club president. Have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to me at any time, and I'll be happy to help you as I can.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
See ya.
Yep.
Bye.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone.
Good night.
Good
I hope
night.
you're feeling
Sayonara.
better.